What's going on, fight fans? Welcome to These Things Happen in MMA. The goal of this channel is to highlight crazy and spectacular moments that have made mixed martial arts into what it is today. Make sure to follow the channel on social media, and the link to my merch shop is in the description below. In this episode, I'm going to talk about Ruthless Robbie Lawler and the amazing streak of legendary fights he had from 2013 to 2016. This is the story of Robbie Lawler's UFC title run. In 2013, when Lawler began his second stint in the UFC, no one expected it would be so impactful. Fans got excited quickly after he demolished Josh Koscheck and Bobby Volker in devastating fashion. Shortly after, he picked up a nice win over an up-and-coming Rory MacDonald as well. In just 1 year's time, he found himself in a title bout against Big Rig Johny Hendricks after 3 phenomenal performances in the welterweight division. Hendricks was on a roll, winning 6 fights in a row before coming up short against long-standing champion Georges St. Pierre in a fight that many felt he won.
Anybody here think that Johny Hendricks didn't win the fight? Did you see George get smashed and hurt in the first round? I'm blown away that Georges St. Pierre won that fight. And listen, I'm a promoter. He's the biggest pay-per-view star on the fucking planet for me, and I still don't think he won that fight.
After the controversial bout, GSP retired, leaving the belt vacant and up for grabs. The fight with Lawler took place at UFC 171 in Dallas, Texas on March 15, 2014. From the beginning, the contest was competitive, with both fighters standing right in front of each other for the majority of the first 2 rounds. Although both fighters were landing, it was Johny who had the higher output and looked sharper early. The third started with more of the same, until Robbie landed a huge left hook that rocked Hendricks and changed the course of the fight. It would all come down to the 5th round, with whoever managed to look better most likely winning the fight. The last 5 minutes saw Hendricks edge out the contest by getting a takedown towards the end of the round. When the scorecards were read, Johny won a very close unanimous decision in one of the best fights of the year to become the new welterweight champion.
The thoughts right now off the top?
Just disappointed. So close. I mean, it was a hell of a fight, and it's been a long road, a long journey, and I just didn't see it going down this way.
This was just a speed bump, however, on the road that would lead to Robbie Lawler becoming an icon of the sport. Following the loss, just 2 months later, Robbie fought the juggernaut Jake Ellenberger at UFC 173 in Las Vegas, Nevada. At the time, Ellenberger was ranked 5th in the division and had won 12 of his last 15 fights. When their bout started, Lawler came out with a laser focus and began landing a series of unanswered shots on the tentative Ellenberger. Robbie continued to outclass Jake, and it seemed the juggernaut had no answers for the Ruthless one. As the 3rd round played out though, Ellenberger managed to hurt Lawler in the opening minute. However, the success would be short-lived as Robbie survived and landed a well-timed knee, forcing referee Herb Dean to stop the contest at 3 minutes and 6 seconds into the 3rd. In his post-fight interview with Joe Rogan, a fired-up Lawler made it known he still had his eye on the title.
You got right back in the gym immediately after that title fight. What was the mindset, and what is your mindset now coming off of this victory?
I wasn't going to cry about anything. I was going to get back in line and beat people up and make everyone know that I'm the best and I'm coming for that title.
If Lawler wanted that opportunity again though, he'd have to win a #1 contenders fight against the immortal Matt Brown. Currently on the best run of his career, Brown was riding a 7-fight win streak, with 6 ending in a finish. Matt also has the record for most knockouts in UFC welterweight history with 9, a record that he's since increased to 11. The bout was the main event of UFC on Fox 12, held in San Jose, California on July 26th. The fight was instant insanity and a back-and-forth war for the first 3.5 rounds. Halfway through the 3rd, Lawler landed a hard body kick that clearly hurt Brown, but he couldn't capitalize as referee John McCarthy mistook the blow for a groin shot. In the last 2 rounds, Robbie came out and proceeded to take over the fight, landing the more devastating blows. When the action was over, the 2 fighters not only produced the fight of the night, but a candidate for fight of the year as well.
I don't know if everybody knows this, but I said yesterday on Fox, if this fight goes 5 rounds, I'll walk back to Las Vegas. I didn't think that it would go the distance because these guys both punch so hard. Robbie's clearly the #1 guy. I think he's had 4 fights in 3 months. Thank you, by the way. He's been unbelievable and stepping up and taking big fights nonstop for us. And, fighting dangerous guys. And he goes in there and that thing goes 5 rounds, unbelievable fight, unbelievable performance.
In just 4 months, Robbie Lawler had his first UFC title shot, had fought 3 times, had 2 potential fights of the year, and was rewarded with another title shot in a rematch against Johny Hendricks. While Lawler was fighting, Hendricks was recovering from a bicep injury that he sustained during their first matchup.
Johny Hendricks, we know that you will be taking on Robbie Lawler in the rematch. You've been on the sideline dealing with the torn bicep. Are you 100% healthy, and have you begun training again?
Yeah, we did a mini camp of 3 weeks. We were doing it. This last week will be 4. And like I was telling somebody earlier, it's sort of like fate. You know, I started doing the diet 3 weeks ago. I started doing everything. I shaved my beard on Sunday, and then all of a sudden Monday I get a call saying, "Would you like to replace Chris Weidman?" I'm thankful that now I get a second fight in 2014.
What would it mean to you to capture that UFC title?
It'd be huge. I've been doing this for a long time, like you said. I mean, a lot of champs around me, a lot of really good fighters around me, a lot of guys who pushed me to be who I am today. So it wouldn't just be for me. It'd be for all those guys too, that they could appreciate it just as much as me.
With a much needed break, the fight was scheduled for later in the year at UFC 181 in Las Vegas on December 6th. Lawler would start the fight fast and aggressive, hurting the champ with every shot he landed until Hendricks was able to slow the pace using his wrestling. Johny looked sharp on his feet in rounds 2 and 3, and it appeared he was on his way to earning his first title defense. However, when the championship rounds arrived, it was Robbie who proved to have the bigger gas tank, and he busted up Hendricks in the final seconds of the fight. The two fighters had just put on another Fight of the Year type performance, and when the scorecards were read, Lawler was announced the winner by split decision and crowned the new welterweight champion. Robbie was now the third fighter from the famed Miletich fighting systems to win a UFC welterweight title. Before him was long-reigning champion Matt Hughes, who ruled the division until GSP took his place. And before him was the first ever welterweight champ Pat Miletich, credited with 4 title defenses and founder of the legendary camp. Both fighters are Hall of Famers, and both were in attendance the night that Robbie won. Hughes even got to put the belt around Robbie's waist after he was announced the winner. With this win, it also marked the longest amount of time between debuting and becoming champion for any UFC fighter in the history of the organization. It took Robbie nearly 13 years since debuting in 2002 to winning the title in 2014. The crazy part is, the best was yet to come. From here on, Lawler's reign would produce fights that would go down as some of the greatest ever. Robbie's first title defense was a rematch against the Red King, Rory MacDonald. Rory was the protege and long-standing training partner of GSP over at the TriStar Gym in Montreal, Canada. Many people within the sport long considered MacDonald to be the next fighter that would rule the division. Coming into the contest, Rory was the clear #1 contender and had won 8 of his last 9 fights, with Lawler providing the lone loss back at UFC 167.
Me and Robbie aren't guys to like hype up the fight. You know, we just go in there and we bring it, and we always perform. And I think if people, you know, really paid attention to who brings the heat every time, you know, Robbie's definitely one of those guys.
The rematch would take place at UFC 189 in Las Vegas on July 11, 2015. The first round started with the filling out process, although Lawler was able to land a strike that broke MacDonald's nose. Rory was landing more overall strikes as the fight went on, however Robbie's were much more impactful. Though in the third, MacDonald landed a head kick that visibly hurt the champ at the end of the round. As the fourth round started, Rory came out strong, though Lawler would survive and the momentum shifted yet again. When the round was over, the bloody fighters met in the middle of the octagon and stared each other down before heading back to their corners. As the fighters got off their stools to begin the fifth, the Red King looked like something out of a horror movie. Once the fighting resumed, Robbie landed a straight punch to Rory's nose and the accumulation of damage had took its toll. MacDonald fell at the 1-minute mark of the 5th round in one of the craziest fights in UFC history. When the bout was over, Lawler was sporting one of the nastiest cuts ever sustained in an MMA fight. Understandably, Lawler would need some time to recover before stepping into the octagon again. Towards the end of 2015, it was announced that Lawler's next title defense would be a headlining slot in the first card of the new year.
Go for your second title defense against a guy that you've seen him, you know him. What does Carlos Condit bring to you that maybe though you haven't seen in some of your other opponents?
Yeah, he brings a relentless pressure. He's a guy who can do it all. He's been fighting for a long time. He has a lot of heart. He's a striker. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. He's very well-rounded, and he comes from one of the best camps in the world.
Carlos trains out of the Jackson Wink Academy in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and brings with him some impressive accolades. He was the former WEC welterweight champion, as well as the former UFC interim welterweight champion, and nearly ended the title reign of GSP back at UFC 154. The bout with Lawler took place at UFC 195 in Las Vegas on January 2, 2016. The contest started with the fighters trading rounds, as Lawler was dropped in the first, while Condit was dropped in the second. The following round was much closer, although Condit was starting to pull ahead on total strikes landed. The fourth displayed more technical striking from the natural-born killer, and he rocked Lawler with a short left hook. As the fifth round started, it appeared Condit was ahead, having outstruck Lawler significantly. Then out of nowhere, Robbie hurt Condit multiple times and he stole the momentum of the round. When the action was over, both fighters had nothing left, and all they could do was rest on the cage as the medical staff checked on them. The contest went to the judges' scorecards, and Lawler won as close of a split decision as you'll ever see, retaining his welterweight title for a second time. In back-to-back performances, Robbie Lawler was a part of two of the greatest title fights in UFC history. Putting on performances like Lawler did could only last so long though, and it's harder to stay at the top than it is to get there. In his next bout, he would lose his title to Tyron Woodley after getting viciously knocked out 2 minutes into the fight. Since then, Robbie would struggle to regain his footing in the division, losing 4 of his next 5. However, Lawler remains dangerous to anyone he steps into the octagon with. The career of Robbie Lawler has been a roller coaster of a ride that's produced many memorable moments throughout. However, none were more impressive than his resurgence to UFC glory in the years of 2013 to 2016. Anytime Lawler fought, it was must-see action, and any fighter that lost to him within that stretch never looked the same again. Whenever he fought, he took a piece of his opponents home with him, and fans are never disappointed by a Robbie Lawler bout. If you've never seen these fights in their entirety, I highly recommend you check him out. He'll go down as one of the most beloved fighters of all time, and his championship run was one of the craziest and most exciting in the history of the sport. As always, I posted some related material in the description for those interested in taking a look. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below with the topic you'd like to hear me cover in a future episode. Again, don't forget to follow the channel on social media, and the link to my merch shop is in the description below. Thanks for watching and supporting my channel.
I'm not watching the fight like you are. You know, when you have, two guys in there and they're fighting, you're looking at it and you're enjoying the contest as, oh, look at that shot. And I'm looking at damage. Robbie Lawler fights Rory MacDonald. Okay, now everyone loved that fight, and they should have. But everyone was concerned about me stopping the fight, either in the 3rd round or in the 4th round. I was never really that concerned about Robbie Lawler in that fight. I was very concerned with Rory MacDonald from about the 4th minute of the 1st round on. What I'm seeing when I'm watching Robbie and Rory, Rory in the 1st round is landing more punches, but they're not real hard. Robbie's not throwing a lot, but when he's landing shots, they are thudding shots. They are heavy. And then he ends up breaking his nose in the 1st round. And you watch Rory starts doing what we call aspirating blood. But as he has that broken nose, he can't breathe through his nose now. He's starting to breathe through his mouth. Now he comes into the 2nd round, he gets a cut in his mouth. And he's got a cut that's now bleeding in his mouth. And he's in the 3rd round, and he's really sucking a lot of air. And when he goes after Robbie, when he hurts Robbie, that's great, but now he's sucking on, and these little droplets of blood are now being aspirated, not going down into his stomach, they're actually going down into his lungs. It was all of those things combined that brought this weight on him that he couldn't continue on in the fight at that point, and that's my job to get him out.